My daughter publicly banished me from her wedding for the man who called her a foolish little key. She demanded my mansion for their honeymoon, but I had already armed the digital video bomb in the master suite. Before continuing, write where you are from or what time it is. My only child screamed at me in front of hundreds of people. The verdict hit me like a physical blow, turning my vision white. I was out. At my daughter Chloe's wedding, she twisted her face into a mask of ugly, misplaced loyalty and shrieked, "Get out! He doesn't want you here." The blow wasn't the volume. It was the raw, hysterical hate in her eyes. It was a primal, final rejection. I saw her new husband, Marcus, behind her, his mouth curved in a small, vile flicker of triumph. He had won the daughter. He had sidelined the mother. I didn't argue. I didn't utter a sound. I simply gave them the quiet, unyielding dignity they were trying to steal. I turned my back, perfectly straight, and walked out of that ballroom. The sudden, shocked silence of the guests followed me, a wave of pity and judgment washing over my armor. My heels clicked steadily on the marble floor. I moved with the measured pace of a woman who had just signed a contract for demolition. I was outside, in the cool, clean night air, before the dam finally broke. Hot, bitter tears of pure rage, not grief, burned tracks down my cheeks. My hands, white-knuckled on the steering wheel, were perfectly steady. I drove away from the too loud music and the cloying scent of imported flowers, heading back to the Willows. To them, I was Eliza Shaw, the quiet, slightly old-fashioned widow. They saw the house, my masterpiece, and mistook its understated elegance for old money. They thought I was a relic living off a fortune my late husband Robert had left me. They believed I was easily managed. They were catastrophically wrong. Robert was a kind, brilliant man, but a terrible businessman. When he passed away 25 years ago, he left me a mountain of debt, not a fortune. I, the gentle 35-year-old widow everyone expected to crumble, sold off the struggling architectural firm and went back to school. I got my commercial real estate license and an MBA while raising Chloe. I didn't just survive in a man's world. I rewrote the blueprints. I am the founder and former CEO of Shaw Properties. The Willows is not an ancestral home. I built it from the ground up. Every square inch of its foundation, steel, I-beams, and reinforced concrete, is a testament to my own iron will. It is my fortress. Chloe, my only child, was my one and only blind spot. I gave her privilege, hoping to fuel her strength. Instead, I only seemed to fuel her insecurities, making her hungry for the flashy, effortless success she felt she hadn't earned. This is where Marcus Miller, the parasite, stepped in. He exploded into her life 6 months ago like a flashbulb, all manic energy and the intoxicating, addictive scent of new, fast digital money. He was a crypto visionary who spoke in dizzying buzzwords: disruption, blockchain, Web3, next-level thinking. His leased Maserati screamed, "I am deeply in debt." But Chloe saw a future god. He was the excitement I wasn't. He didn't represent the grounded, methodical stability of bricks and mortar. He was an Instagram filter of success. My developer's gut, the one that had kept me solvent for 3 decades, screamed that Marcus was a hastily constructed spec house built on a toxic landfill. All facade, no foundation, all leverage, no equity. He saw me as the obstacle to his real prize, my legacy, my home, my money. He saw Chloe as the unfortunate key he was using to get through the door. I called Arthur Fincher, my corporate lawyer. "Arthur, I have a new target," I said, my voice all business, not maternal. "Marcus Miller. He's engaged to Chloe. I need Protocol Omega preparation. Full asset protection." Arthur, who had known Chloe since she was a girl, went silent. "The full workup, Eliza." he asked, his voice grave. More than the usual, I replied, the heat of my betrayal turning my voice cold. I want his soul. Full financial forensics. I want to know every dollar he owes, who he talks to, what he says when he thinks no one is listening. I didn't want to be proven right. I wanted to be proven definitively wrong. Arthur engaged Harris, the discreet and terrifyingly expensive private investigator. The encrypted file arrived in less than a week. I opened it in my secure study, the one room with an air-gapped server. It was worse than I could have imagined. Marcus was a failed day trader, drowning in debt, maxed out credit cards, and owed gambling debts to unsavory bookmakers. His company was a one-man LLC, a clumsy Ponzi scheme. But the financial summary wasn't the worst betrayal. The final folder was labeled MMRR, Surveillance, 10425 MP4. I clicked the mouse. The sound echoed in the silent, wood-paneled room. The image flared to life on the monitor. Crystal clear footage of Marcus in a dark bar, leaning conspiratorially toward a woman named Jessica. She's just so easy, Marcus slurred, his words cutting the silence. Chloe worships me, thinks I'm some kind of crypto god. My stomach clenched. He was talking about my daughter. Then came the true price of her devotion. The mother, he said, his voice dripping with condescension, is the real prize, the real bank. The girl's a fool, a useful, totally obsessed fool. But the mother, she's the one with the keys to the kingdom. She's the target. I felt the rage freeze me from the inside out. He had targeted me, my life's work, my home. He had called my daughter a fool. So what's the play, Mark? The woman Jessica asked. Simple. I use the daughter to get to the mother. I marry Chloe. I'm in the will. I'm in the house. She'll be begging me to take control just to feel connected to her daughter again. He raised his glass. To the bank, and to the foolish little key I used to unlock the vault door. The screen cut to black. The cold, logical part of my mind, the developer, saw only one course of action. Controlled demolition. I had to wait until he was inside the perimeter. I saved the file to my private server, labeling it honeymoon welcome MP4. The clock was ticking. I waited for one last final flicker of hope that she would wake up, see the fraud, and call off the wedding. She didn't. The wedding invitations arrived, thick with hypocrisy and the nauseating scent of money. I knew I couldn't stop the merger, but I could try one last time to reach the girl I used to know. Showing her the video was too nuclear. It would only confirm his narrative, the jealous, controlling mother trying to sabotage her chance at happiness. The only language left was finance. I invited her to lunch at the Willows, just the two of us. I had Maria, my housekeeper, prepare her absolute favorite childhood meal, the coq au vin. I set the table in the sunny, intimate breakfast room overlooking the Japanese garden, desperately trying to conjure the safety we once shared. She arrived an hour late, tapping frantically on her phone. Mom, so sorry. Urgent strategy call with investors from Zurich. Super important. The casual lie hung in the air, a poisonous gas cloud. It's fine, darling, I said, keeping my voice gentle, refusing to let the irritation show. I'm just happy to see you. Maria made your favorite. A flicker of the old Chloe, the girl who loved comfort food more than designer labels, lit her eyes. For a few minutes, the wall softened. We ate, talking about the ridiculous cost of the imported peonies. As we sipped coffee, I finally carefully broached the subject. Chloe, I have some concerns about Marcus. Her face instantly tightened. The mask dropped, replaced by the cold, sharp look of suspicion I knew all too well. What concerns, Mom? Don't start. Please, not today. Honey, it's not an attack. As a developer, I did a little due diligence, the way I would for any major partnership, I explained, trying to sound logical, not emotional. For your sake. Due diligence? Her voice turned icy. You mean you spied on him? You ran a credit check on my fiancé. That's unbelievable, Mom. It's so controlling. The shame in her voice was thick, but it quickly inverted into sharp anger. It's responsible, I countered, trying to hold my ground. And I found things that worry me deeply. I slid a thin, neatly bound file across the polished table. It contained no surveillance, only the cold, hard, indisputable public record facts about his mounting debt and multiple significant liens. Chloe, please just look. He's not stable. He has no tangible assets. His company is a shell, funded by high-interest, short-term loans now in default. He's a fraud. I offered her a lifeline, a face-saving financial reason to pause. She didn't even open the file. She looked at the stark cover as if it were toxic waste. Then, with a gesture of pure dismissive contempt, she shoved it back. I can't believe you, she hissed, her face flushed with white-hot, desperate anger. I finally find someone who understands me, someone who respects my ambition, someone who's building something new. Not like this old, dying world of yours, and you try to tear him down with your dusty old papers. She was trembling. The resentment she had been nursing for years was finally unleashed. I'm not tearing him down, Chloe. I'm trying to protect you. My own voice rose, the desperation breaking through. Protect me? She laughed, a short, bitter, ugly sound. You're trying to control me. You can't stand that I found someone more successful, more dynamic, more alive than anyone in your stuffy, boring, predictable world. More successful? I was stunned by the sheer willful blindness. Did you hear a word I said? He's broke. He's lying to you. He is not, she screamed, standing so abruptly her chair nearly toppled. The money he owes is just leverage. It's risk. It's how the new economy works, something you wouldn't understand. You're stuck in the past, Mom, with your bricks and your mortar and your history. She was using his language, his justifications, his dismissive labels against me. He had gotten to her, truly, deeply. I am marrying him, Mom, she warned, her voice dropping to a dangerous low pitch. In 3 weeks. You can either accept that and be a part of our new, exciting life, or you can be this, the bitter, jealous, controlling old woman trying to ruin her daughter's only chance at real happiness. It's your choice. She grabbed her designer handbag and stormed out, leaving the untouched financial report and my shattered hopes behind. The prophecy from the video had come true. Get the daughter to sideline her first. Make her choose me over her. She had chosen him. My heart didn't just break. It hardened. The time for gentle warnings was over. I was sitting in a pool of my own failure. All I could do now was prepare for the inferno. The bomb. The video was no longer a contingency. It was a necessity. The wedding day arrived like a beautifully wrapped death knell. I chose my outfit with symbolic care. A classic, impeccably tailored, deep teal silk suit. The armor I wore when I successfully negotiated the hostile takeover of the downtown financial tower project. It was understated, elegant, and imbued with the quiet, lethal power of undeniable success. I arrived precisely on time. The country club was ludicrously opulent, smelling of imported flowers and hubris. A flustered planner met me at the entrance. Mrs. Shaw, yes, of course. Right this way, she murmured, avoiding my eyes. She didn't lead me to the front, to the roped-off pews marked family of the bride. She led me on a long, winding, humiliating walk of shame around the perimeter of the garden, past hundreds of staring guests. She stopped finally at a small, solitary chair tucked away at the extreme back, behind an enormous, inconveniently placed decorative pillar. It was directly next to the catering tents, the hum of generators, and the faint, unmistakable chemical odor of the portable restrooms. It was a spot designed for maximum invisibility. "A lovely shaded view from here, isn't it?" the planner whispered, her face red. It was the ultimate, unmistakable, meticulously planned snub. Marcus's cruel, territorial fingerprints were all over it, executed with my daughter's weak, complicit approval. I looked at the mortified girl and smiled, a small, infinitely weary, quiet smile. "Thank you, dear. It's perfect." I sat down alone, my back straight, and during the saccharine sweet ceremony, I watched my beautiful, tragically lost daughter glide down the aisle on the arm of Marcus's father, Dr. Deo. She had chosen him to give her away. The final erasure. I watched Marcus, the predator, stand at the altar, his eyes glittering with smug triumph. I sat hidden behind the pillar, invisible, erased, my heart a cold, heavy $5 million stone in my chest. I endured it, knowing that the ceremony was theirs, but the reckoning would be mine. The reception was even louder, thicker with expensive food and rapidly rising alcohol fumes. I was relegated to table 28, a social Siberia I shared with 3 hearing-impaired cousins and the wedding planner's exhausted assistant. I ate my lukewarm filet mignon. I watched my face a carefully constructed mask of polite maternal interest. Marcus was holding court at the head table, accepting the fawning congratulations of his guests. Chloe sat beside him, gazing with a pure, blind, heartbreaking adoration. The rituals unfolded, the best man's rambling, boorish speech, the cutting of the cake, a tower of fondant and hubris. Then came the final, brutal twist of the knife, the father-daughter dance. Chloe glided onto the floor, not with an uncle or a stand-in, but with Marcus. He was filling that role too, spinning her around, the spotlight firmly, exclusively on them. A public declaration that he was her everything. The past, namely me, was officially erased. As the dance floor opened, I knew it was time. I stood up, my teal silk suit feeling like armor. I picked up my untouched flat champagne flute and began to walk, slowly, deliberately, towards the raised dais, towards the microphone. It was my duty, my final act of defiance, to offer a toast. Guests turned to stare. Whispers erupted in my wake. Is that her mother? Where was she sitting? I ignored them, my gaze fixed forward. I reached the steps of the dais. Chloe and Marcus were laughing, basking in their victory. They didn't see me until I was standing right beside them, a quiet, teal-clad figure of judgment in their garish spotlight. "Chloe," I said, my voice quiet but clear, cutting through the immediate bubble of their laughter. She turned, her smile freezing instantly. Her eyes widened with shock and pure annoyance. "Mom, what are you doing up here? You're supposed to be at your table. People are looking." Her voice was a cold, irritated hiss. "I came to offer a toast, darling," I said, keeping my tone smooth. "As the mother of the bride, it's traditional." Marcus, overhearing, turned. His face, flushed with alcohol, darkened instantly into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. He had put me in the corner. I had dared to leave it. He leaned over and whispered something venomous, urgent, in Chloe's ear. Her face went pale, then flooded with a deep, ugly red. A look of animalistic panic, the fear of his disapproval, entered her eyes. She looked from his furious expression back to my calm, waiting one. The final tether to decency snapped. All the buried resentment and desperate need for his approval erupted volcanically. She stood up abruptly, shoving her chair back with such force that it scraped loudly against the dais floor. The music, coincidentally, or perhaps deliberately, faded slightly. Her voice, when she spoke, wasn't a whisper. It was a scream. A raw, hysterical shriek that cut through the silence, bringing the entire ballroom to a horrified halt. "A toast?" she shrieked, her face contorted. You're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing him." She gestured wildly toward Marcus. "He doesn't want you here. He told you. I told you. Why can't you just understand?" The music stopped completely. The DJ hit the kill switch. The room was plunged into an absolute, ringing, horrified silence. "Get out!" she screamed again, her voice now a raw, ragged shriek. "You're ruining everything. You're ruining my wedding. Just go. Leave. Get out." Every eye was on me, and beside Chloe, his face impassive, I saw Marcus. The smug, triumphant smirk was back. He had won. He had successfully weaponized my own daughter against me, banishing me definitively from his kingdom. The silence that followed Chloe's shriek was suffocating. 200 pairs of eyes were fixed on me. I looked at my daughter, her face a mask of hateful, hysterical fury. Then I looked at Marcus, his smirk a quiet, vicious flicker of victory. He had engineered this brutal public banishment. The hope that she might one day wake up died, replaced by a cold, hard certainty. I did not fight. I did not argue. I did not offer a single word of defense. I gave them exactly what they had so cruelly demanded. I turned my back and walked away. The only sound in the cavernous, breathless ballroom was the steady, measured click of my sensible heels on the marble floor. I walked with the deliberate pace of a developer retreating from a hostile site, knowing the preset charges were armed and waiting. I did not rush. I reached the grand entryway, gave the paper white planner a small, tight nod, and walked out into the cool, silent night air. The tears that finally fell in the car were cold, silent, and angry. The tears of a CEO who had just watched a partner maliciously sabotage an irreplaceable project. The time for grieving was over. The time for cold, hard, strategic demolition had begun. I pulled onto the highway and made my first call. "Arthur," I said, my voice clear and steady as ice. "It's Eliza. We're activating Protocol Omega. Full immediate activation. The scorched earth contingency. Eliza, are you absolutely sure?" Arthur's voice was cautious. "That's the final measure. It's irreversible." "I'm sure, Arthur," I interrupted. "Full activation. Now." I paused, forming the final beautiful piece of architecture. "And one more thing. I need you to confirm the package is uploaded and confirmed active on the Master Suite server. It's a welcome gift for the happy couple." The demolition was officially scheduled. The next morning, Sunday, I was in my study by 6:09 a.m. I hadn't slept. I was in full developer mode, reinforcing walls and locking gates. I had spent the pre-dawn hours on secure calls with Arthur and my financial team, executing the first phases of Protocol Omega, liquidating certain joint access funds I had foolishly set up for Chloe, and changing every password and access code across my entire estate. Every asset was now tied exclusively to my sole biometric signature. At precisely 10:17 a.m., my personal phone rang. Chloe. I let it ring 3 times, listening to the shrill, demanding sound. On the 4th, I picked it up, letting out a small, calibrated sigh. "Hello, Chloe," I said, my voice level, cool, and neutral. "Mom, good morning. You're up." Her voice was bright, breezy, and manic, utterly dismissive of the public humiliation she had inflicted 14 hours before. The audacity of her denial was stunning. "Listen, we're just packing up at the hotel. We had a last-minute change of plans. Hawaii is so predictable, so cliché," she chirped, the word cliché sounding like Marcus's voice in her mouth. "We're going to honeymoon at the Willows. It's so much more private and luxurious. We can just move in today for the next 2 weeks." She wasn't asking. She was telling me the plan. rewarding herself for her own cruelty by demanding the keys to my home. "We'll be there in about an hour, maybe an hour and a half to pick up the keys," she dictated. "Can you make sure the guest wing is ready for us?" "Oh, wait, no, the master suite. We should definitely stay in the master suite. It's our honeymoon after all. Just make sure Maria has put out the best fresh linens. And hey, maybe you could leave out a few bottles of that really good champagne you keep in the cellar. The one with the yellow label." She was demanding my personal bedroom, my linens, my vintage Dom Perignon. Her entitlement was breathtaking in its absolute scope, and in her spectacular foolishness, she had walked directly into my hands. There was a long, deliberate silence on my end. I let her request hang in the air. Was she sensing the trap? No, she was just annoyed by the delay. When I finally spoke, my voice was smooth as silk, warm, rich, and indulgent, the voice of a developer closing a multi-million-dollar deal. "Chloe, darling," I said, my tone as sweet and accommodating as warm honey. "What a truly wonderful idea. Spontaneous, romantic. Why didn't I think of that?" I could almost hear the audible sigh of relief on her end. The dragon was purring. "You're not mad?" she asked, still holding a faint trace of uncertainty. "About, last night?" I let out a small, light, almost musical laugh, a perfect performance of maternal forgiveness. "Oh, sweetheart, don't be silly. That was just crazy wedding drama. Everyone was stressed. It's forgotten. Completely, utterly forgotten." I fed her the exact lines she wanted. "You're a lifesaver, Mom. A true lifesaver." Her entitlement was fully restored. "Well," I said, my voice brimming with honeyed maternal warmth, "it's your honeymoon. You must have the absolute best. The master suite it is, of course. I'll just move my things into one of the smaller wings. I'll be completely out of your way. You'll have the entire main house to yourselves. We're leaving the hotel right now. We'll be there in an hour." "I'll be waiting, darling," I replied softly, my smile now a cold, precise, devastatingly final weapon. "I'll have the keys ready for you at the front entrance. Drive safe." I hung up and smiled. The enemy had confidently signed the contract containing the fatal, ruinous clause. She was ringing the bell to her own execution chamber. I called Maria, and then Arthur. "Arthur, they're on their way. The package is uploaded and confirmed active on the master suite server. Activate Protocol Omega. Full perimeter lockdown." The digital bomb was armed. All that remained was for the happy couple to walk through the front door. The house hummed with quiet, purposeful energy. Maria looked at me with deep concern as she headed upstairs with the fresh, crisp linens. "Mrs. Shaw," she murmured, "are you sure about having him in this house, in your room?" "I'm sure, Maria," I said. "Prepare the suite exactly as I asked. Make it perfect. Then take the rest of the week off." She understood. This was not a reconciliation. This was an expulsion. I walked to the master wing, my sanctuary. I unlocked the secure server controls with a biometric thumbprint scan. I accessed the single file, honeymoon welcome.mp4. The audio was pristine, the video high resolution. Marcus, his face flushed, boasting about his conquest. The girl's a fool. The mother, she's the real bank. She's the target. I navigated the smart home control panel. Trigger, TV power on. Action, play media file. Honeymoon, welcome.mp4. Setting, autoplay, full screen, remote functions locked, looping enabled, volume locked at a conversational but unavoidable level. It was a digital prison, an inescapable landmine. The moment they turned on the entertainment system, they would be met with the unpausable, unstoppable, endlessly looping truth. I packed a small overnight bag. I would not be in the guest wing. I was retreating to my private apartment above the detached 5-car garage, a perfect tactical observation post. I was handing them the main house, a strategic retreat. But they had no idea I still held the master keys to the drawbridge. The ridiculously loud, obnoxious sports car announced their arrival 58 minutes later. It crunched aggressively on the gravel, shattering the peace of the garden. I stood in the grand foyer, my face composed in the perfect mask of a gracious, forgiving mother. They tumbled out, laughing, giddy with self-absorbed triumph. They had faced down the dragon and won. "Mom, we're here," Chloe chirped, giving me a brittle drive-by air kiss. Marcus swaggered up the steps, 2 designer suitcases in hand. He gave me a lazy, confident, almost pitying smile, the magnanimous charm of a conqueror accepting surrender. "Eliza," he said, using my first name with a new possessive familiarity. "This is really, really great of you. Classy move. We appreciate it." He was patronizing me on my own doorstep. "Don't be silly," I replied, my voice smooth, warm, welcoming. "It's your honeymoon. You should have the best." I reached for the small, antique silver box on the console. I pulled out my own personal set of keys, the master fob, the one with the small custom-engraved ES monogram in platinum, the one that controlled everything. I pressed it firmly into Chloe's surprised hand. "No, darling," I said, my own master key resting in her palm. "Not the guest wing. The master suite is all yours. Have a wonderful, truly unforgettable time. Make yourselves completely, utterly at home." She clutched the key, her eyes glittering with surprise and total victory. "Thank you, Mom. You won't regret this." "Oh, I'm sure I won't, darling," I replied softly, my smile the most duplicitous, dangerous expression I had ever worn. "I'm absolutely sure of it." I watched them ascend the main staircase, Marcus's arm slung possessively around her shoulder, his knuckles brushing the master key. They were giddy, arrogant, and walking directly, eagerly, into the dark, waiting digital heart of the trap. I retreated to my garage apartment. I made myself a fresh cup of strong black tea. I sat in the window seat overlooking the main house. 10 minutes passed. The lights in the master wing flickered on, bathing the windows in a warm glow. I could picture the scene. Marcus popping the cork on the chilled Dom Perignon, the sound echoing slightly in the large room. "This is the life we deserve, babe," to the new masters of the universe. Then I pictured his hand reaching for the remote, aiming it at the massive 8K screen, ready to summon music. He'd press the power button. The screen would flicker to life, not with a menu, but with the high-resolution, unshakably stable footage from the dark cocktail bar. The sound would boom through the 16 discreetly placed speakers. "She's just so easy. She worships me." I heard the first sound, a faint, sharp, almost musical crash, the champagne flute. I smiled, a small, cold, deeply satisfying smile. Then, precisely 3 minutes after the lights had come on, the sound. It was a scream. Not the shriek of petty anger from the wedding. It was a raw, primal, agonizing wail. The sound of a heart being torn apart, live on television. The sound of a woman finally, brutally realizing she was the fool, the key, the leverage. The nice video had detonated. The perimeter of the house was already locked. I reached for my phone, looking at Arthur's incoming text. The reckoning had begun, and I was about to oversee the most satisfying demolition of my career. The scream continued, raw and agonizing, a sound of absolute soul-shattering betrayal that sliced through the quiet evening air. It was punctuated by the faint, muffled percussive sounds of things being thrown against the wall where the television was mounted, or perhaps at Marcus himself. I sat in my quiet apartment, nursing my strong black tea, listening to the consequences of the truth. My personal phone buzzed. It was a text message, precisely on schedule, from Arthur. "Miss Shaw, as per your standing instruction, Protocol Omega is now fully active. The perimeter locks on the main house, including all exterior doors and the main gate, are now remotely engaged and slaved exclusively to your personal key fob. All other fobs, including the master fob you provided to your daughter, are now deactivated. They are, as you requested, trapped inside the perimeter. The house, my fortress, was now a luxurious, inescapable prison for its two warring, newlywed inhabitants. Arthur continued. Furthermore, the encrypted audio feed from the master suite sitting room, triggered by the sustained high-decibel acoustic event, the screaming, is now being securely and legally recorded and streamed directly to our private server for documentation purposes. The rage that had been liquid nitrogen in my veins was now cold, clear purpose. I could still hear the faint, muffled anguish of Chloe's wail, now mingled with Marcus's desperate, shouting denials. He would be lunging for the remote, stabbing frantically at the power button, realizing the file was locked, the system hijacked, and the presentation was not over. I typed my reply to Arthur, my finger steady. Not yet, Arthur. Let them enjoy the honeymoon suite and each other's company for a little while longer. Let them fully absorb the presentation and its implications. An entire night, perhaps. Let them discuss their future. I'll let you know when it's time to take out the trash. I looked across the manicured lawn. The ambush was complete. I began to mentally track the scene inside. Chloe's heart would have been eviscerated by the sound of Marcus's voice. The mother, she's the real bank. The girl's a fool. She would be standing rigid, staring at the screen, the truth looping relentlessly. Marcus would be focused solely on the exit. The keys. He would have vaulted the furniture and seized the master fob he'd just seen me hand her, that small, heavy piece of metal with my Platinum ES monogram. He would be racing to the exterior doors, the ones he and Chloe had just walked through. He would shove the fob into the lock. Click, nothing. He would try the grand front door. Click-clack, dead silence. The system would give a subtle, flat red light, unseen by them, but monitored by me. The access was denied. The keys he had believed represented his total victory, the ES fob, were useless. The castle keep had closed, and he was inside. Chloe's voice would rise above his frustrated shouting, not in anger, but in cold, dawning horror. The keys, Marcus! You said those were the master keys. Why isn't it working? He would spin around, his bravado instantly replaced by sheer, unadulterated catastrophic terror. It's a glitch, Chloe. Calm down. It's a security glitch. Your mother's system is old school. I just need the code. There is no code for the fob, Marcus. It's biometric. Her voice would crack, laced with the realization of his lie and my control. He would try the phone, the one on the desk, only to find the outside line had been silently cut minutes earlier as part of Protocol Omega. He was isolated. He was trapped in the most palatial, secure room I owned, with the woman whose life he had just destroyed, and whose mother was now the warden. I knew the trajectory of the night. First, denial, then blaming the system, then blaming me, and finally, inevitable, violent confrontation between them. Marcus had destroyed his life and Chloe's reputation for the keys to the kingdom. Now he had the keys, but the kingdom was locked, and the only path to escape led through admitting his fraud to the fool who had married him. I waited, sipping my tea. The screaming had subsided into a continuous, agonized shouting match. I made a small note on my pad. Property damage likely in master suite. Factor into final demand. This was more than justice. This was structural engineering. I was allowing the lies to destroy their own foundation. The confrontation inside the master suite raged for hours. I couldn't hear the exact dialogue, but the rhythmic shouts and occasional crashing sounds, a chair, perhaps, or a lamp, told the story. The audio feed Arthur was recording would capture every word of Marcus's panicked self-defense and Chloe's heartbroken realization. This audio, captured legally on my own air-gapped server, was the final piece of evidence. Marcus, still fighting, still trying to leverage the key. Around 1 Gao a.m., the main house fell silent. The lights in the master suite remained fiercely, aggressively on. They were awake, sitting in the ruins of their short marriage, watching the video loop for the 5 millionth time. I knew I couldn't let Marcus regain any psychological advantage. I needed to remind them exactly who was in control, and that their fate was now entirely administrative. I walked to the dedicated secure workstation in my apartment. I pulled up the Willows smart home interface, the redundant master control panel in my safe haven. The interface showed the master suite was at full energy consumption, thermostats set high, all interior alarms disarmed by the master fob before it was deactivated. I navigated to the intercom system, the one hardwired to every main room. I bypassed the soothing chime function. I chose the master suite. I cleared my throat. The adrenaline rush I felt wasn't maternal concern. It was the sharp, clean focus of a CEO about to deliver bad news in a hostile board meeting. Chloe, Marcus. My voice, cool, calm, and perfectly amplified, cut through the silence in the master suite. I trust you found the Dom Perignon to your liking, and the linens. Maria made sure they were the best. Silence. I pictured their faces snapping up, white with shock. They hadn't considered the intercom. I see the master suite lights are still on. Since you have the whole house to yourselves, I should remind you that Protocol Omega is fully active. The perimeter lock is engaged. You are confined to the main house. Marcus's voice, muffled but identifiable, was the first to break. Eliza, this is illegal. You can't hold us here. This is false imprisonment. His voice was thick with panic. Hardly, Marcus, I replied, letting a thread of cold amusement enter my tone. You asked, not asked, but demanded the keys to my house. I gave them to you, along with my blessing to walk into the trap I had already set. You are merely enjoying the 2-week honeymoon you so arrogantly demanded. You are a guest, a trapped guest, in a privately owned, highly secured home. You are a trespasser who was given conditional access. Chloe finally spoke. Her voice was thin, raw, and shattered, stripped of all its hysterical volume. Mom, why? Why couldn't you just tell me? Why this? Her question, an intimacy line, revealed the lingering shame and need for connection. I tried, darling. I showed you the smoking gun at lunch. I reminded her gently, but ruthlessly. I showed you the multiple significant liens and the default judgments against him. You chose to call that dusty old papers, and me a jealous, controlling old woman. You chose him. You publicly screamed for me to leave your life. I honored your choice, Chloe. Now you live with it. I could hear a scuffling sound. Marcus was trying to seize the intercom. Listen to me, Eliza. We can fix this. You don't understand the new economy. We can monetize the situation. We can work together. You need my energy for your old school assets. This house is too much for you. Let me manage the property. He was recycling his script even now, desperate to flip control. The gall of his offer, now delivered from his prison, was breathtaking. I let out a sharp, genuine laugh, the laugh I used before foreclosing on a bad commercial tenant. No, Marcus, I don't need your energy. I need your full, signed, and recorded confession. That audio feed Arthur is recording? It's going to be essential for the disgruntled, furious small-time investors you conned, and for the authorities. I paused for impact. You are a walking, talking, soon-to-be indicted felony. You have until 9 a.m. to decide how this ends. Will you cooperate, Or will I have to call the local authorities and report a potential domestic disturbance and trespassing? I didn't wait for a reply. I cut the feed. The lights remained on, but the shouting stopped. I had planted a microclock. The threat of public exposure and legal consequence, the escalation from financial to public, was now hanging over them. My heart beat a hard, steady rhythm against my ribs. I had been forced to use Chloe's vulnerability against her, but it was the only way to save her from the financial inferno he had created. I now needed to wait for the sunrise, the deadline, and the inevitable call. I didn't sleep. I watched the clock and the unrelenting light from the master suite windows. At 6 a.m., I called Arthur. "Arthur, engage phase 2, I ordered. "Prepare the documents. I want a full, irrevocable annulment package for Chloe and a quitclaim deed, transferring all of Marcus's few remaining liquid assets to a temporary trust. He owes me the cost of the due diligence, the damage to my house, and the full market value of the time you and your team have spent on his demolition. I want him to leave with the clothes on his back and the Maserati he's still leasing." "Understood, Eliza," Arthur confirmed. "We will arrive at 8:45 a.m. sharp. We'll be in the driveway. Do you want me to bring the police?" "Not yet. I need Chloe's signature first. She needs to sign away his right to her life without the threat of a police officer standing over her. It needs to be her choice. Her first real choice," I said, swallowing the small bitter pill of maternal hope that still existed. At 8:30 a.m., half an hour before the deadline, the internal house phone rang. It was the master suite. "Marcus." "Eliza, you cold-hearted witch. This is not over. I know what you're doing," he shrieked, the panic now fully unhinged. "Good morning, Marcus. I trust you had an unforgettable night in the master suite. It is the biggest, the best after all. You have 15 minutes until 9 a.m. What is your decision?" "Chloe is here. She's my wife. She won't sign anything. She's standing by me. She loves me. She's going to speak to your lawyer and tell him this entire thing is fabrication and slander. I'm going to sue you for defamation and harassment." I heard a frantic shuffle, then a thud. The phone clattered. Chloe's voice was suddenly on the line, strained but clear, directed not at me, but at Marcus. "Don't lie, Marcus. Don't tell her that. I heard what you said. I saw the video. I am not your human shield. I am not signing anything that keeps me attached to a walking, talking, soon-to-be indicted felony." There was another sound, louder this time, a distinct, heavy crash. I realized it was the sound of her finally smashing the $1 million question mark he had become in her life. "Chloe," I said, my voice softening just a fraction, the sound of her standing up for herself hitting me with the force of a hammer. "Arthur is arriving in 10 minutes. I have the documents ready. He will explain everything. You sign, he's gone. You don't sign, I call the police, and he goes to federal prison, but you remain legally bound to his debt. It's your choice, darling. Your final choice." I hung up. She had finally moved from the position of the foolish little key to the position of a principal player. I watched from the garage apartment window. At 8:45 a.m. sharp, Arthur's discreet black sedan pulled up the long driveway. He and a female associate, a paralegal, exited the car, carrying 2 neat leather briefcases. I waited 2 minutes, letting Arthur reach the grand front door. I pulled out my sole working key fob, the Platinum ES monogram. I pressed the small button coded for the front door. Click. The lock disengaged. A single, sharp, professional sound. I watched Marcus, pale and frantic, stumble out of the front door. He was wearing the clothes from the night before, his designer label suit now rumpled, his demeanor ruined. He saw Arthur and the paralegal waiting patiently on the porch, 2 figures of quiet legal authority. He stopped dead. He saw the path to freedom, but only if he signed the documents Arthur would present. Then Chloe appeared. She looked haunted, exhausted, but her posture was no longer trembling. She carried the two sleek, expensive designer suitcases Marcus had brought. She tossed them down the wide stone steps. She looked at Marcus. "You can have your Maserati and your debt. I want nothing else from you." Marcus lunged for the bags, but Chloe turned and walked toward Arthur. She was choosing the legal path over the emotional attachment. I knew then that I had won, but the victory was bittersweet. I had saved her future, but the daughter I knew was a casualty. I knew the next step would be the hardest, cleaning up the mess and facing the public fallout. Arthur handled the immediate confrontation with the quiet, ruthless efficiency of a corporate lawyer, executing an eviction notice. Marcus screamed about the illegality of the recording, the confinement, the annulment papers. Arthur simply pointed to the two options: sign the pre-prepared documents, annulment, quitclaim, and acknowledgement of debt, and walk free or refuse, face the police, and listen to the high-resolution encrypted audio feed played in open court. Chloe stood beside Arthur, her back straight, a shattered but resolute witness. She signed her portion first, the annulment papers, her hand shaking but steady. The act was a final, cold severing of the toxic attachment. Marcus, seeing his foolish little key now actively working against him, crumpled. He signed, his signature a frantic, illegible scrawl that still held legal weight. He took his suitcases and staggered to his leased Maserati, peeling out of the driveway, the obnoxious roar of his car, disappearing into the morning. I watched the retreat from my apartment. When Arthur returned to the foyer, I spoke over the intercom one last time. "Arthur, the Master Suite TV is still looping. The entire system needs a full wipe and restoration. The cost of the property damage in the Master Suite, and I suspect there will be damage, plus your entire fee for Protocol Omega, is to be filed as an immediate lien against Marcus Miller Digital Ventures, LLC. I want that shell company and his intellectual property seized to pay the debt." "Consider it done, Eliza," Arthur replied. I walked back across the lawn to the main house. Chloe was sitting alone in the sun-filled foyer, waiting. Her eyes were red, but dry. She looked up when I entered. "It was all real, wasn't it?" she whispered. "The bank, the fool, the key." "Yes, darling," I said, the maternal warmth I had stifled for days finally returning, mixed with the sharp clarity of a developer addressing a failure. "The foundation was particle board, built on a toxic landfill." She looked down at her hands, clutching the platinum master fob I had given her. "I'm so sorry, Mom, for the wedding, for everything I said." "I know," I replied. "You felt you had to choose him to prove your independence. You just chose the wrong man to do it with. You chose the excitement over the stability I represented. He knew exactly how to leverage your insecurity." She looked around the grand foyer, her eyes seeing the beauty of the Willows for the first time without contempt or greed, but with the dawning realization of its true cost: decades of iron will and reinforced concrete. "What do I do now?" she asked. "You start over," I said. "You help Arthur and me close the legal loops. You learn to spot leverage when it's used against you. You learn to build your own foundation. It's hard work, but it's the only way to own the view." I reached out and gently took the master fob from her hand, the symbol of power she was not yet ready for. I clipped it back onto my own leather case. The fallout was immense. The annulment was public. Marcus's legal troubles became a massive story in the tech press, the crypto visionary exposed as a clumsy Ponzi scheme artist. Chloe's reputation took a hit, but by being the first to sign the annulment and cooperate, she showed she was still my daughter, Eliza Shaw's daughter, capable of decisive action. She was the one who had made the final choice to cut the cord. Chloe started working for Shaw Properties, not in a glamorous executive role, but in asset management, learning the foundations of commercial real estate from the ground up, scrutinizing every 100-page lease agreement. She had to see the ugly truth beneath the facade of a glossy success. It was the long road back, but she was finally walking it on her own 2 feet. I never did look at the master suite again. I had Arthur hire a forensic construction team to strip the room to the studs, the floor, the walls, the furniture, to remove the memory of their betrayal. The cost was high, but I didn't care. It was simply the final necessary demolition before I could start rebuilding my own foundation. My daughter was gone, but the woman who replaced her might just be stronger. And finally, my own. I walked back through the quiet halls of the Willows, the platinum master fob warm and secure in my hand. I had lost the soft, predictable daughter, but I had secured my legacy. The only way to win in a hostile takeover is to make sure that when the dust settles, the only one left standing is you. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.